everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Get Your Deck Out, the podcast-ish series here on the Old Emo Dave channel, where we talk to people who are specialists of their decks, done really well, and they give us a little bit of an insight into how the deck plays, why they were playing it, and some of the secrets to success. With me today, I have Francis, aka Goatham MTG, to talk about what is now his back-to-back massive event top 8 with which deck?
Blue
Francis?
Faeries.
Mono Blue Faeries. Thanks for being here, mate, and like massive congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Everything that you've achieved recently, specifically with this deck.
Yeah.
Talk us in the mindset. Like Pauper being one of those ones where people play the thing they like, but they also have the opportunity to switch between multiple decks with metagames. Where was the Mono Blue Faeries call in this specific window of metagame?
Well, it originally started with the Brood Scale metagame, because Faeries is one of those decks that it hits the ground running and it doesn't really stop. As soon as it gets its engine online, it's very oppressive and it just locks you out of the game. Now, decks that are very bad at dealing with that are traditionally your combo decks, so like your Brood Scales, your High Tides, anything like that. Or anything that's playing like a turn 1 tap land and a turn 2 Ica Wellspring. Like, they're playing catch up from the get go, and you're just slamming cards every single turn, out spells, you're drawing cards. So it's really good into that. So initially it picked up popularity around Broodscale because it was great into that metagame. It was also very good into Affinity, and it doesn't have a bad time into Jund Wildfire, I don't think. It's maybe the tides are starting to turn now that they're picking up more like Pyroblasts, but it was very good into all those slow decks.
Yeah, so that was the turn in tide, wasn't it? That post MA3 launch, and when we finally sucked up all the UK supplier statistically, they were out there in the battlefield and getting played because people had just dropped more than a Pauper deck on 4 cards. But you're still on the deck. Why is it still able to produce results even 3 or 4 sets on?
So around the March bannings, I think Faeries has actually gotten a lot worse. So the reason that I've continued to play it is I played it at Deadliest Dispute, which was in April, so not long after March. That was a bit of me calling out the UK metagame and just the paper metagame in general, because it's typically very slow to adapt, and I think the UK is maybe exacerbating it a little bit. People are still playing Affinity, and online you're seeing it so like less and less and less. People love Jund Wildfire, which is another deck that I don't think Faeries has a bad matchup into, unless the Wildfire deck is really committing like 6-7 sideboard cards to it. So again, you're hitting the ground running before they've even established their engine. So shove cards down their throat, stop them stabilizing. So I played it for that, and it went pretty well.
Yeah, like we talk about your top 8s in the big tournaments, but you were also 9th, right, in the Deadliest Dispute?
Yeah, so I went 5-2 Deadliest Dispute. The 9th place was a bit of a miracle because there was some like weird draws that happened in the last round that shouldn't have. But I got 9th there, which looks good on the resume.
You take them every day of the week. Yeah, remember, this is Mr. 100% at Axion events with my on Breakers top 8 in a goodies event, right? So like we take those.
Yeah, so for Deadliest Dispute, I thought we run it back. It's pretty. I think the deck was pretty good. Still, and people are starting to. I was sort of hoping people would pick up High Tide. They didn't really. So I played that. I made a deck that I thought was horrible, and I piloted it, and it went fairly well. And then for Axion, I thought, well, I'm going to run it back. So, I've had success with Faeries. It's pretty good. I think the metagame's still going to be slow to adapt. And after what I saw at Deadliest Dispute, where the metagame was something like 20% Affinity and Wildfire, I ran it back. And the metagame was completely different for Axion, but it still worked out.
It sure did, and that like it's credit. Like, these are not small fields. Like, this is not like you top 8 in your 16-man RCQs. Like, this is like this is you go in like 74, 60 odd, 180 or whatever Nationals was. Again, like, shout out how great that event was. Can't wait for this year's. And coming out of top. And also, yeah, like unfortunately, like your actual loss was against another mono blue fairies player as well, like a
Yeah, we even played in the
friend of the
Swiss.
yeah, friend of the channel, Olivia, as well, who like went on
Yeah,
to come away with some good old booty. I noticed on their Twitter
yeah.
with that this weekend. Was it a similar deck, different deck? Like, has Fairies got any variants within variants, or is it more a case of a couple of little meta calls here and there, which like swing the matchups?
Yeah, so you've got like the three big players are mono blue, blue red, and blue black. Blue red is a bit of a meme. People like playing lightning bolts. They just play that, but the deck's terrible. Blue black is like more control slash mid range, depending on the build. And then mono blue is pure tempo. Within the mono blue decks, I think to be honest, about 50 of the 60 cards are locked in the main deck. You've got that core engine of like 12 one drops. 8 ninjas, 4 of 1 mine, 4 counterspell, 18 islands. Then you're just filling out the last 10 cards, really. So yeah, there was probably fewer than 10 cards different between mine and Olivia's list.
Yeah, fair, fair. Just out of obviously curiosity, are we matching? Are we on matching islands? What is the choice?
So I'm using Battle for Zendikar, Full Art Islands at the moment. Before that, I was using Zendikar Rising, not Full Art Islands. I think I'm actually kind of a sucker for the Dominaria United, like kind of gross brown old border ones.
I know the ones. I know the ones. Like it still just makes me chuckle with like the obviously a lot of the interactions we've had with all the Pauper community across the UK, and we can't wait to look forward to bring them all down to the south as well, so we can give them some hospitality down here. But like the fact that like some of them will have like Pauper decks that will be worth £70 because they
Yeah,
dropped £35 on matching basics. Like they just do crazy things like that. Like
yeah,
very much an interesting one. Back just to the deck. This is a
hmm
lot of one drops.
yeah,
The most recent edition being obviously Humbling Elder,
yeah,
the one from Dragon, from Tarkia Dragonstorm.
yeah.
Very similar to Bribelow Intruder, other cards in the deck. What does this particular card give that others weren't? Does it help play around some things, or give completely different utility, or just another good case of more options is better?
So Brian Barrow Intruder and Humbling Elder are literally the same card in this deck. They don't the creature type being different doesn't change anything. They're humans, which is key on their creature type, and then they have flash and the -2/-0 thing. This actual creature is super important for the other creature matchups. It's literally the best card in the mirror. It's key against the aggro decks, especially like the mono red ones, and it can help a lot against like random flyers. Like refurbished familiars basically everywhere that's got like black, so you can't really like you it's very hard to counter a refurbished familiar with a sprite, so you just got to let it resolve, take the L, and then hit in. And the Humbling Elder lets you do that. It keeps the ninjas relevant. They're great. Originally, well, for a time I was testing with 6 of them, which was the benefit to getting Humbling Elder. I get to play more of them. Eventually I decided to play Mutagenic Growth instead, because Mutagenic Growth is a bit more offensive, which helps you get through the adaptations that Mono Red have made, which is now they're playing Kessig Flame Breather and Thermo Alchemist, and those things they never get killed by a ninja, right? If your ninjas aren't connecting, you're not winning. So Mutagenic Growth lets you force through the ninja, kill their 2-drop, and then just keep attacking it in subsequent turns, which unfortunately the Humbling Elders don't let you do.
No, it always does surprise me when I see this deck online and playing in a league is how often it is actually just happy to race you because
Yeah.
it just has that agency. So like, yeah, it's just a sign of the way that the meta game played, I guess. Um, moving through into the 2 drops, so we do have some of the usual suspects: the Moon Circuit Hacker, the Spell Stalk
Yeah.
Sprite, the Counter Spell. Snap as a choice. Any particular calls here, or I
So
love that.
Snap was
I
a
love the
card.
art.
Yeah, Snap was a card that started off as 4 copies. Back in Nationals, I played 4, and then in Deadliest Dispute, I played 4, and I was like, I've boarded out at least 2 every single game. So I thought it was maybe time for it to go. I know Skura, who is like a very good Polish player, He's a big advocate of no snaps, and I think very slowly I'm sort of leaning towards that. Snap is essentially a copy of your best enter the battlefield effect on the board, and sometimes it saves a creature from a removal spell. You very rarely want to use it on your opponent's stuff unless it's for a massive tempo swing. But essentially, it's your fifth and sixth copy of Spellstutter Sprite if you want to look at it at a very high level. I board it out all the time. It's the problem with fairies is everything that's 2 mana you just hate. Ninja of the Deep Hours, Snap, Counterspell, like all of these 2 mana cards, they put a massive strain on your mana because you're not amazing at hitting your land drops. And that's why I've made a very conscious decision for every card in the sideboard to not cost more than 1.
Yeah, no, you can see that, and that was gonna be one of the things I was asking. Like, this seems like a conscious. Well, obviously you got your Tormund script on 0 as well. I think I can easily just go straight away with obviously a Nulls and Hydro Blaster for some of the obvious matchups. Bind the Monster, particular reason for this?
Writhing Chrysalis. So I've got Unable to Scream in the main deck. That's like a nice generic answer to creatures because it gets rid of their abilities and they become a 0/2. So if they block the ninja should kill it. The problem is the creature that is enchanted with Unable to Scream can A, still attack, and B, still block, and C, if it gets a 1/1 counter on it, it still has a 1/1 counter on it. So Writhing Chrysalis with Unable to Scream on it is a 2/4, which just stonewalls your ninjas. So that's what Bind the Monster comes in for. It locks down the Writhing Chrysalis. It's also quite nice if anyone's playing Scattershot Archer. It'll deal with that. So it's sort of a necessary evil. You don't love it because the creatures you tend to put it on will deal you at least 5 damage if you cast it. But it is necessary.
Us Boggles players obviously getting a nod for the Bind the Monsters. Yeah, we love a good old scatter shot. The amount of times I've turn one I've seen like basically turn 1 concedes to the scatter shot where it's like, oh, okay, we'll just go game 3. You got this one. Loving that. Obviously, you've got toolbox answers for everything. Do you feel this deck sticking around? Is it any?
No.
Obviously, we no. You don't think it's sticking around?
No, I don't think. I think it should already be dead. After looking back at the Axion and the metagame, it was Mono Blue Fairies was the most popular deck at Axion.
It was. Yeah, looking at it before this chat was like, I'm surprised how many people were playing a deck similar to this.
Yeah, and that's not good for it. I think Fairies shines best when it's like a meta call and when it is preying on things, like when it was preying on Broodscale, Affinity, like all these slow Ica Wellspring, Tapland decks, High Tide, that kind of thing. Like the 5-land spy thing that's running around. Sure, give me that all day. What it actually really struggles against are decks that just put things on the board or decks that will overload their sideboard to beat it. When you're the most popular deck and you've got a target on your back, you're going to lose. My only loss in Swiss was actually in round 1 to Jund Wildfire, and I've been saying it's a pretty good matchup. But when your opponent can cast Breath Weapon and hold up Pyroblast, like it's really hard to come back from that.
That is pretty decent, isn't it? So, like, if you were able to go back, if you're needing to go back to Axion, I know we don't have a Pauper event in August for them, but
yeah,
if there was, and Final Fantasy made no changes, but I think from some of the cards we've already seen, I think it's fair to say it will. What would you take?
I don't know. I'm really intrigued in Ephemeratron. I know Jacob Crook. He was a Deadliest Dispute and Axion. He came first in Axion, so congrats to him. Came second in Deadliest Dispute, just falling short. I mean, he's playing Ephemeratron. I don't know. I think he's overpowered, not the deck, but it looks so sick. I really want to play something like that.
I've got the title for this now. Nerf Jacob Crook. That's like literally
the. I think he's great. He messed me up at Deadliest Dispute. He's really good at the deck. He knows it inside out. I kind of want to be able to do that with it, but it's also painful to play, especially if you play against Burn. I've ran leagues with it, and it's just like Burn every single match, and you're like, oh, it's an uphill battle the whole way.
It is, and like one uphill battle though we were over is the fact that we had an amazing large event here with Axion, and like on the surface, shout out the fact that they even took a risk on it. You know,
Yeah,
this is a community run format. Obviously, put up against like directly up against the Mega Modern.
yeah.
Did a number, but I think it's fair to say didn't do it the number it was capable of. Obviously,
It didn't do enough.
we
No.
saw fantastic numbers at nationals. In fact, I think like speaking to Dan personally, like if he'd uncapped the top and had he would have probably got to about 220 if like it was a true let's just book as many as we can. So like
Yeah.
Pauper's definitely popular. Like being there on the day, is there anything that's just like vibe checks or from what you can see would have potentially led to this not being
I
as
don't
big as
know.
it was?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily resonated with the community. People thought that like nationals was being stolen, something like that. But
Yeah,
generally, I think Axion is a great tournament provider to have in the UK, and having
yeah,
them do pauper
definitely.
events is fantastic. The pricing is always extremely top heavy at Axion, and
Hmm.
maybe that's something that doesn't resonate with the pauper players.
No, I
Because it
guess.
also drives up the ticket price. For example, first place is £2,500. Grant to go to Paupergeddon. I could go to Paupergeddon 5 times on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think I remember seeing some Discord saying that essentially from the UK, the price of the ticket, the stay, and the travel to go 2 hours across the UK, um, everything considered, was going to
mhm.
be the same as it would have cost them to go and fly, get to Port again, and stay and fly back.
Yeah,
Like there was such a negligible difference that that that's an economy thing or that's just sort of like a way of the world thing. It's something that I think needs to be taken into account, especially on these formats that are not serving the Premier Play system, which I think is another
mhm,
argument for us to have about like where
for
this
sure.
format's going. Is like, you know, should we be talking of a fourth RTQ format here or a fifth one if we also include sealed?
Yeah.
Um, I think we're definitely knocking on that door, and that's like really great to see because we could talk from our own experience that like Pauper is the bridge back from Commander when you're still quite invested but you fancy it. This is
Yeah.
the bridge back. This is the bridge back for you once, twice a month. Look into like play the game, still playing 60 card, and keep that fire alive in you as well. So and yeah, and this is my little almost you shout out for all the work you've done for us in Cardiff. It's been
Thank you.
excellent, and your results are worthwhile. So to wrap up the money side, you did take home the bag. What's the plan?
um, I suppose I would try and go to Paupergeddon. Unfortunately, it's gonna have to be next year when I do go. I don't really have the time to fit it in this year, but that's fine. They run loads, so next year would
Of
be
course,
nice. Um, so yeah, I guess yeah, Paupergeddon. There we go.
and
Try and perform on the international stage.
And yeah, absolutely. We definitely know that you will. You have modern results under your belt as well, which people don't give you credit for.
Oh,
Currently third in the
yeah,
seven verse series. That obviously is something we'll be announcing very shortly. What the exciting prizes are that are added to that. Um,
sweet.
I I'm gonna be running a league with this. So
Yeah,
any tips or advice you want to give for me? Obviously, I thank you Magic Online for the account to do this. But obviously, to keep up a competitive integrity, I'll be leaving the call. So, Fran, you can laugh at me from afar on the video, but just make my embarrassment not that bad. What's some of the things I need to be paying attention to in sideboarding and play plans?
yeah. Okay, so your mulliganing is the most important thing. So many hands with fairies do nothing, and because all of your cards are actually quite bad on their own, it's the sum of the parts. So what you want to do is get a ninja down on turn 2, pretty much every game. Um, I would mulligan more or less every 7 that doesn't put a ninja on the board on turn 2. The next best hand is specifically Fairy Seer into Spell Stutter Sprite. Fairy Seer can help you get the ninja, Spell Stutter Sprite delays until you get it, and then you can pick up the sprite and recast it with that ninja. Apart from that, when you're actually playing, every time your opponent puts something on the stack, you've got to really ask yourself if it matters. Your interaction is not great, and it is very limited, and Counterspell, while it is 2 mana, it is the best piece of interaction in your deck. So if your opponent puts something on the stack, you've got to really ask yourself, am I going to use my counter spell on this? And if I do, am I going to lose to a follow-up or anything like that? I think those are the main things with it. You've just got to be very aware of what's going on, what your opponent's trying to do, and how they can beat you.
Awesome. Well, also as well, and to announce on this video, if we get 25 likes, Fan is whacking me over the cyborg guide. If we get to see you out there in the social sphere, we'll publish it live for you once this video hits it. But obviously, before we go, definitely plug yourself on some socials. Let people know where they can find you, magic related, I guess, unless you want to completely dox yourself.
Yeah, so there was my eBay, which I was trying to sell that secret lair on, but that's sold. I've sold that now, so that's fine.
Shout out eBay, yeah.
So I don't need to plug the eBay anymore. I don't know. I guess what's my Twitter handle? @MTGGoatham, all one word.
Yeah.
If you want to see me on that, I don't have any other socials. I don't really tweet.
just follow, like a lot of us on X nowadays. We just follow Fire Shoes and pick up deck lists. So
yeah, I love.
So in the odd time when me and Fran are doing that, come follow us. Obviously, me, Oldie, or Dave, anywhere you can find me. And thank you very much for getting your deck out with me today. We will see you all on the next one. The next time anyone any results want to talk about it, let me know on any of them socials, and we'll see how the league goes. Bye for now.
Yeah.